Okay, so this is question 2 in the playlist on quick test proportionality, and you can download all of the questions, of which there's 3, from the link below in the description. This particular question deals with direct proportion. It's a little bit tricky, but it's only because they give us the relationship as a fraction. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So the cost of a journey is directly proportional to the distance travelled. So I could write that mathematically by saying C is proportional to D, where C is the cost and D is the distance. Okay, now let's have a look at this. Joe travels 130 miles and spends £15 on petrol. So in other words, £15 equals, well, the distance is 130 miles. Now that doesn't really work. 15 doesn't equal 130. What's missing is this value of k, which is called the constant of proportionality. Kind of makes the thing work, really. Now this is where you could divide through by 130 and you're going to get a pretty awkward decimal. It's something like 0.11538. Doesn't really work for me. It's kind of a bit neater and a bit tidier to write something like k equals 15 over 130, and then if we reduce that through, it just looks a little bit neater to write it as a fraction, 3 over 26. If you wanted to, you could write it as a decimal, but it just doesn't look as nice. When we write out the formula itself, which is C equals 3 over 26d, and that will answer the question. It's actually not in here, but that will give you the formula that we're going to be using throughout the 2 calculations for A and B. I hope that's okay for you. Just is this little bit of this fraction that you need to deal with. As I say, you could write it as 0.11538 D if you wanted to, and that would work just as well. Okay, so when we're looking at the answers to the questions, I'm going to write it as A, and I'm going to write in the formula 3 over 26D, and then it's just a case really of plugging the numbers. So with question A, it says the cost of petrol for a journey of 190 miles. So the cost is 3 over 26 times 190. If you pop that into a calculator, that's going to give you a value of £21.96, and that will answer the first part of the question. And part B, again, exactly the same. We're told that the length of the journey, the cost of the journey is £12.75, so C equals 3 over 26D, and we've got £12.75 equals 3 over 26D, and if you fiddle around with a calculator or if you divide through by 3 over 26, remember that when you divide by a fraction, what you're actually doing is multiplying if you flip it over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 12.75 times 26 over 3, and again it's just dealing with fractions. If you're not sure about that, then maybe using a decimal equivalent will work perfectly well for you, and that's going to give you then 110.6 equals D, which is the miles, 110.6 miles. I hope that's been okay for you. A little bit more complex on this particular one, but it's only because we've got to deal with this fraction. Other than that, the principles are pretty much the same for most direct proportion questions. I hope that's okay. Please do have a look at the final video in this particular playlist, which is going to be on indirect proportion. Look forward to seeing you inside the next video.